Welcome to the world of scary stories. Here you'll learn about Spanish scary stories in English. You can also choose the story you want from the descriptions using timestamps and titles. Subscribe, like, and share your creepiest stories in the comments. I look forward to seeing you all. Get your ears ready. Get comfortable, turn off the lights, and let yourself be immersed in what awaits you. These are Spanish scary bedtime stories. Let's begin. First story. The victim appears. Good afternoon. I'm writing to you from Tijuana. I want to tell you a story that happened to me about 15 years ago. I've only told friends and family, but over the past few months I've been watching your channel too much and decided I'm writing to you. I was 16 years old and a high school student when all this happened. That day, I was walking with my friends Luis and Rene along the train tracks near the dam in Tijuana, through that tunnel. A long section leading to a small stream. According to Rene, that place was beautiful, and we really wanted to see it. We arrived around 3 p.m. It was a little chilly, but nothing out of the ordinary. There was no fog or anything like that. It was an ordinary day. The most ordinary thing. A little gray, but ordinary. We stayed there for a while, and it was all about the weather. We felt comfortable and calm. Even the police don't come for things like this. When we decided to go back, it was already around 8 p.m. And as soon as we started walking back toward the tunnel, we noticed a very thick fog approaching. It appeared out of nowhere. A thick and silent silence, and from then on, everything seemed strange. As we moved forward, we began to hear sounds like someone approaching from behind. Whispers. Sometimes it seemed like someone was praying, sometimes like they were laughing. Hallowed be thy name, thy will be done, as earth, so also heaven. We continued walking, and entering the tunnel, we turned around. We wanted to look at the fog that was moving behind us. It looked like a cloud that had fallen to the ground. Waves of fog suddenly revealed a view of the surroundings, and, soon, nothing. And between the waves, through the fog, we saw something. Someone who seemed to be hurrying to catch up with us. She looks like a lady, like a grandmother. Her worn, almost torn clothes hung on her. As we looked more closely, we noticed something. Perhaps because of the thick fog at such a height, the woman's legs were invisible, and as she approached, nothing was visible. It seemed to be moving, but not moving its body, as if hovering in the air. As she approached, we realized she was praying, and that at times she laughed. It was approaching us directly, very slowly, but without stopping. And when it was about 2 meters away from us, it was as if we had received a shock. An electric discharge, as if our legs suddenly reacted, and we began to run. Even though we were running as fast as we could, in the tunnel, we felt it approaching us directly from behind. We heard it. They were close, but none of them dared turn around. Imagine doing so, and finding out about it. It hovered behind us. We no longer heard any laughter, no prayers, nothing. We came out of the tunnel, and ran until our legs gave out, then stopped and ran to the factory stand. As soon as we reached the traffic light, we turned around, and there was nothing behind us. On our side, no laughter, no prayers, nothing. Lou's parents came to pick us up and took us all home. I got in the car, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was still approaching us from behind. I don't know, it seemed to me like something was approaching very close, but I can't see it. Something that I imagined still hovering in the air, and that's what I close my eyes, being in oneness, even after all this time, and that's the image that comes to mind. The next week, I was even afraid to go to school. I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to go anywhere, but the worst was yet to come. In the following weeks, I began to have very vivid dreams about her, as if I were holding her in my arms. A head, more real than any other dream I've ever had. And at night, it seemed like someone was watching me from the darkness of my room. From especially, the room was darker than the rest of the space. It got to the point where I started to panic. I couldn't sleep at night, and with each passing day, I felt more and more tired and exhausted. My aunt realized something was wrong, and took me to church. She asked the priest to bless me, and asked him to pray for me. He asked for a blessing for my home, and my family. It didn't happen overnight, but gradually, I began to feel peace in my head again, as if nothing was there anymore. He leaned against me. This is something I will never forget, and never will. I never returned to that place again, and if you are near the dam, please do not go into the railway tunnel, under any circumstances. Second story. The Cave Witch. Hello Ariel, I wanted to send you my short story. I really like your show. I'm from Guadalajara, Jalisco, and I've always had a sensitivity to things beyond this world. I've always been very cautious about these matters. What I'm about to tell you about will begin this year, in July. I went to the Calamos Forest with 3 friends. It was one of their birthdays. My friends and I decided to go for a walk. We reached a house in the ravines and sat down to chat. A typical teenage conversation. I already felt a very strange atmosphere. But I didn't say anything. Sometimes I feel like this. But then it goes away on its own. And then my friend, he saw a doll near the path and wanted to go to her. I followed him without understanding why. Although I was already tired and wanted, we returned for our things. When we intensified the atmosphere, she felt even more married. When we got to the place where the doll lay, we couldn't see it anymore. But there was it. It appeared in a different place, closer to the ravine. My friend wanted to get closer. I even put it down, but then picked it up again, because I felt something was wrong. I felt weak, dizzy, and terribly unwell. Somehow I managed to get him out of there. I don't remember. What's the excuse? Then we went to eat and chat with his uncles and parents. His father took us to a cave, and the people of Guadalajara know that these caves are now closed, because they were used for witchcraft and so on. And yet, somehow, she let us in, and we crossed the line. The atmosphere was terrible, very strong. You shouldn't have any sensitivity. It's a special feeling to experience something like this. After visiting this place, my back hurt, as it only happens where there is strong energy. Bad. That night, while taking a bath, I noticed scratches in awkward places. I couldn't reach places I couldn't walk, even though I could slip between the branches. Months passed, and I started to feel very strange. I got a very strange illness. I stopped eating. I slept all day, and I felt like I was dying. My mother took me to the doctor, and I ended up in the hospital. She was paler than usual. The official diagnosis was salmonella, but the doctor he confidently told my mother that he wasn't actually sure he had this disease. One of those nights in the hospital, I saw a woman in black pass by my bedroom door several times when it was left open. I also started having very strange dreams. In one of them, I was at my grandmother Elvira's house, and the same woman, she grabbed my hand with cold palms. She said, "We need to go. You come with me." What should I take with me? She was pulling me toward the exit, and I remember my grandmother Elvira stopping me, saying, "You can't take her, she's not leaving yet." And I was waking up with a high fever. I was discharged because, as they said, I was already getting better. I ate less and slept less. My mother says I was on the verge of death. But I don't remember being sick. I don't remember feeling that bad. Last week we went to Los Calomos again. The same friends as last time wanted to go too. I wanted to see that cave too, and I felt awkward refusing, so I cautiously followed him. I took precautions, but I couldn't go back inside. I sat and waited for them until I saw them. I ran back. Out of curiosity, I stayed to see what would happen. In the cave, in the dark, behind my friends, I thought I saw the woman from the hospital, the one who had passed me. The room, the very one I dreamed of in my grandmother's house. Behind it stood another figure. She was sitting, but I couldn't see her. When my friends ran past, I tried to get up quickly, and when I put my foot on the ground, I lowered my head. Looking around, I noticed a thread bracelet on the floor at my feet, which I had lost long ago. It was simply dirty, but safe and sound. Instinctively, I picked it up, and as soon as it was in my hands, a terrible fear gripped me. I felt as if this woman, she was right behind me, and I ran. Of course, at first, I wasn't sure. I thought it was the same bracelet, but when I checked at home, I found nothing. Doubt. When I told my friend about this, he replied, something similar happened with the fact that when I was sick, he saw me standing in his house patio, but when he came out to me, I was already gone. He found only an elastic band with thread, and a medal that I lost a few months ago. Honestly, I don't even know what to think. I've been in similar situations, but never something this serious. I still see shadows, and hear different sounds. My mom says it's because I was close to death, and sometimes I think so too. I didn't survive completely, because, ever since then, I've felt an emptiness, like a part of me would have died. I'm sharing this because that didn't happen to me. I have one more person to tell, someone who will believe me, and also in case someone, can you give me some advice? This story might not have such a strong impact on others, but for me, having gone through something like this, I survived it, and I still experience it. Yes, I do. Thank you for letting me share this. Third story. The girl who appears in my house. Hello everyone. Today is my last day of vacation, and I listen to fairy tales every night. I finished listening to the entire collection of horror stories. Some of them I heard quite a long time ago. The stories they share here always seemed captivating to me, but I didn't have time to listen to them complete. Taking advantage of the peace of this day, I want to share what happened to my family, and we still remember that date. When I was about 6 years old, I started dating a little girl. I never saw her in person. I only saw him out of the corner of my eye. Sometimes I could barely make out the top of his head. However, there was one incident that particularly stuck in my mind. I was in the kitchen, a kitchen that was already, today, it's no longer there, and it was no help in cooking. We had a big gate, there was a glass door, and outside was one of those simple round washing machines. I've always been a coward, and that day, I was completely alone because my parents were gone. When I turned to the gate, I saw that a girl was hanging on the washing machine, peeking out as if playing, watching me. I remember perfectly well the way her hair moved when she bent over, and her smile. It was a smile that is impossible to forget. My grandmother already knew that I sometimes see it. That girl advised me, if something frightens me, to close my eyes tightly and not give in to my imagination, and he told me that when I open them, nothing will remain. So I did. I didn't open my eyes until my mother returned from the store, and the girl was already gone. I saw her a few more times, but that was the only time I was able to make out her face. Other things happened too. For example, I had a doll that said phrases when you pressed its tummy, and suddenly, completely unexpectedly, at night, it started. It would turn on by itself while my parents and I were sleeping. It felt like someone was pressing it, or I was playing with it, and this happened so often that my parents eventually took out the batteries. Years passed. I remember very well that when I was about 10 years old, one afternoon I heard my mother scream, "Oh, silly, you scared me." And then laughing, she came into my room. But when he saw me lying there, the expression on his face changed. He asked if I scared him, and I said no, I didn't. She left the room. She was terribly scared because, that same week, I mentioned to my father that she was never afraid, that she could be alone, as if nothing had happened. Music and darkness weren't a problem. But that day, when I walked by, through the small high window of the old bathroom, he saw the top of a girl's head and a few little hands that rose, making a boo sound. He thought it was me, until he found me lying in my room. That's when my parents told me that when I was younger, my father also saw a girl peeking out, the same window through which they scared my mother. They even told me that sometimes I was talking to my dad when he was home alone. One day, a neighbor knocked on our door, and he clearly heard the voice of a little girl who said to him, "There's no one here." There was no one there. He thought it was me, and even answered him, but my parents swore to him that I wasn't home. The neighbor turned pale with fright. There were a few more events, but these are the most vivid. And finally, the last one. It happened when I was spending the night at my aunt's. My parents told me about it that morning. They saw the little girl's head peeking out the window again. Even the curtain was slightly raised. Then my father spoke to her, as if she were a real child, and told her that this wasn't her home, that she didn't belong in our family, and that she had to leave because she had already scared my mother and me, that she was bad for scaring us. Perhaps it worked, because after that day, he never showed up again. I don't know if it's related, but before I started dating this girl, my parents took me to a former monastery, Kilvacan. I was playing in front of them, and as soon as I turned the corner, I saw some kind of white cloth flying. I saw a small white cloth crawling. I ran up, thinking it was a bride taking pictures, as sometimes happened at the church near my house, but I turned the corner, and there was no one there. Sometime later, when I returned home, I went back to see through the glass partition, this white cloth crawling, moving away from my eyes, as if someone was hiding. I hid. I was so scared that I cried until my dad arrived. I don't know if it's related somehow, but recently I came across a video of the former Kilvacan monastery, and when I read, I saw in the comments that many people had experienced paranormal phenomena there. This is what made me go back in time and think that maybe somehow we brought the girl home from that place. I hope you enjoyed my story. I really enjoy hearing the stories you share here. I wish you all the best. I wish everyone the best, and all the very best. Fourth story, Paranormal Activity in a Butcher Shop. Hello Uriel. Good evening and hello to the whole community. My name is Uriel, same as yours. I've submitted 2 or 3 stories. Actually, you published one of mine, and that's how Stories 25 came to be. It was quite a while ago. I currently work as a store manager at one of the largest supermarket chains in the country, Sukarn. For context, the store where I work is located in a relatively new plaza, built about 3 years ago. This plaza also houses the Guadalajara Pharmacy, a hair salon, and a laboratory. But before this plaza existed, there was an abandoned movie theater on this site, completely in ruins. When I worked in a restaurant, I sometimes helped the delivery driver deliver orders, and one of the most frequent customers was a security guard at that old movie theater. On weekends, he always ordered something, every week, but every time I went to deliver his order, I would find him on the street. One day I asked him why he was never home, and he said it was because they scared him. He didn't like being there. Years later, ironically, I started working in that same store, in the butcher shop. I started as a sales clerk on the sales floor, and then I was offered a management position. From the first day, I noticed unusual sounds, doors closing by themselves, water faucets opening by themselves, refrigerator doors seeming open, things like that. Things were constantly unfolding, but when I was offered a management position, and I worked alone for 2.5 months, the worst began. These were no longer just sounds. Now you could hear meaningless words in empty corridors, footsteps, muttering, action. The situation became clearer and more consistent. Some customers even saw something or heard noises from inside. It was so loud that 2 customers gave me a gift. They sprinkled the tent with holy water because they themselves witnessed what was happening. They saw shadows moving along aisles where no one was, and once a customer even saw a 20-liter jug, so a fly out from under the counter dispenser. Sometimes our cell leader asks us to send photos of the store, certain items, specific locations. I took photos on different dates, and 2 of them, it might just be my imagination, but I think I see what you will see too. If you decide to do this, I will send you photos for the video, and events will develop further. Now I have a landlord. No one likes to stay after closing, but I have to stay. Closing meeting and performing administrative tasks. So, we're talking about a structure that's already made itself known, twice, and we live together every day. My partner was locked alone in the engine room, and the bathroom too. Sometimes we arrive and find that where cleaning should be, everything is a mess. This is done at the end, and at the beginning of the day. I've tried contacting her by phone. I'm trying to figure out what it wants, but it doesn't answer me. It just manifests itself, when it feels like it, and it even seems to enjoy playing pranks. I'm sending you photos. Feel free to share them with the community. Maybe it's okay, or maybe someone else will see them. Same thing as me. Have a good rest, and a good night, everyone.